The assault rifle's muzzle gleams cold steel under Cedar Falls Diner's buzzing neon as three masked figures explode through the glass door at 11:30 p.m. Customers shriek and dive beneath greasy tables while Gabriel Hartford, the $2.3 billion tech mogul, crushes his 8-year-old son's Gucci birthday cake box against his chest, designer suit wrinkled with terror sweat. "Anyone moves, they die!" the lead gunman roars, his weapon sweeping across cowering bodies like a scythe of death. But across the chaos, night shift waitress Nora Walsh stands frozen behind the counter like carved marble, her piercing blue eyes locked onto the gunman's face with an eerie stillness that makes Gabriel's pulse stutter. No screaming, no trembling, just those steady hands and that voice cutting through pandemonium like a blade. "How much do you need?" she asks, her tone steady as granite. The gunman stops dead, staring at her like he's seen a ghost. What did you say?" he stammers. "I asked how much money you need," Nora repeats with the calm precision of someone who's negotiated with killers before. And Gabriel realizes with ice-cold clarity that everything he thought he knew about this mysterious woman might be a carefully constructed lie. The morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Gabriel's 20,000-square-foot mansion in exclusive hills, but the warmth never reaches the shadows where he sits, hunched over his mahogany desk. His fingers trace the edges of a silver-framed wedding photo, Isabella's radiant smile frozen in time, like a beautiful ghost that haunts every corner of this empty palace. 8-year-old Leo bounds into the study, his sneakers squeaking against polished marble floors that echo with the hollow loneliness of a house built for a family that no longer exists. Gabriel quickly slides the photograph face down, his movements sharp and guilty, but not fast enough to escape his son's sharp eyes. "Dad, why are you crying again?" Leo's small voice carries the weight of a child who has learned to read his father's pain like a book written in tears. Gabriel wipes his cheeks with the back of his hand, the motion practiced and bitter, while Leo climbs onto his lap with the determined grace of someone who refuses to be shut out. The boy's arms wrap around Gabriel's neck, and the smell of strawberry shampoo from his morning bath mingles with the lingering scent of Isabella's perfume that Gabriel still sprays on her pillow every night. "You cried yesterday too, and the day before. Mrs. Johnson says you need to find a friend." Leo's innocent words cut deeper than any business rival's betrayal, because they carry the brutal honesty of a child who sees everything but understands only the edges of adult grief. Gabriel's chest tightens as he looks into Leo's questioning eyes, those same warm brown irises that mirror Isabella's gentle spirit. "Do you remember Mommy, son?" The question slips out like a confession, and Leo nods with the solemn certainty of someone protecting precious memories. "I remember her singing me to sleep. I remember her making chocolate chip cookies that smelled like heaven." The boy's voice grows softer, more thoughtful. "But now it's just you and me, Dad. And you're so lonely it makes the whole house feel cold." Gabriel's throat constricts because Leo has named the unnamed thing that follows him through marble halls filled with everything money can buy except the one thing his heart craves. In his jacket pocket, hidden like a shameful secret, lies a photograph he took from across the street 6 months ago. Nora Walsh wiping down tables in Cedar Falls Diner, unaware that a broken billionaire watches her through tinted windows every night, searching for something he cannot name. The next afternoon, Gabriel's black Bentley Mulsanne purrs to a stop outside the weathered brick facade of Cedar Falls Diner, its pristine paint job gleaming like liquid obsidian against the faded charm of the small-town establishment. Leo presses his face against the bulletproof window, breath fogging the glass as he peers at the neon sign flickering with promises of home-cooked meals and honest conversation. "Dad, why don't we go to Le Bernardin like we always do?" Leo asks, referencing the 5-star Manhattan restaurant where they usually dine in isolated luxury, served by waitstaff, who bow and scrape but never truly see them. Gabriel adjusts his Tom Ford suit jacket, fingers drumming against his Patek Philippe watch face, and the lie comes easily because the truth is too complicated for an 8-year-old to understand. Sometimes a man needs a change of scenery, son. But the real truth burns in Gabriel's chest like acid. For 6 months since that first accidental visit, when his driver took a wrong turn, he has been coming here to watch Nora Walsh move through her shifts with a grace that seems untouched by the weight of the world. She is the only person he has ever met who looks at him without seeing dollar signs, who treats him like a human being instead of a walking bank account. When they enter the diner, the bell above the door chimes with the sweet simplicity of a life Gabriel abandoned years ago in pursuit of empire and fortune. Nora appears from behind the counter, her auburn hair catching afternoon sunlight that streams through fingerprint-smudged windows, and Gabriel's breath catches in his throat because she shows no surprise at seeing a billionaire in her humble workspace. "What can I get you?" Her voice carries the warm efficiency of someone who has served thousands of customers without losing her humanity, and Gabriel finds himself stumbling over words like a teenager asking someone to prom. "Black coffee." And he glances at Leo, who is studying Nora with the intense curiosity of a child meeting someone new. "Were you hurt last night? During the incident?" The question hangs between them, loaded with concern, and something deeper, something that makes Nora's blue eyes narrow slightly, as if she is seeing him clearly for the first time. "No," she says simply, her smile soft but guarded. "Were you worried?" Leo bounces in his seat, unable to contain his excitement at meeting the woman who stood fearless in the face of death. "You weren't scared of the bad guys. I would have been terrified." Nora slides into the booth beside them with a casualness that shocks Gabriel, because no one sits down uninvited with a man worth billions of dollars. Her presence fills the space between them with warmth and mystery, and Gabriel realizes he is holding his breath like a man afraid to disturb a perfect moment. "Fear doesn't help anyone," she says, her eyes fixed on Gabriel's face with an intensity that makes him feel naked and exposed. "Besides, what's a billionaire doing in a diner at midnight?" The question slices through his carefully constructed facade like a scalpel, and Gabriel's mouth goes dry because somehow, impossibly, she knows exactly who he is. "You know who I am?" Gabriel's voice comes out rougher than intended, revealing the vulnerability he keeps locked behind boardroom confidence and media-trained charm. Nora leans back against the cracked vinyl seat, her gaze traveling from his Italian leather shoes to his perfectly styled hair with the practiced assessment of someone who reads people for a living. "Bentley Mulsanne, 2024 model. Tom Ford suit. Patek Philippe watch." She pauses, her head tilting slightly as if solving a puzzle. "Either you're very wealthy, or you're very good at pretending, but fake rich guys don't have eyes that sad." The observation hits Gabriel like a physical blow because she has seen through every defense he has built, every mask he wears to hide the gaping wound where his heart used to be. Over the following weeks, Gabriel finds himself inventing reasons to visit the diner, sometimes alone during his lunch breaks, sometimes with Leo after school, always hoping to catch another glimpse of the woman who treats him like an ordinary man instead of a corporate deity. Nora serves them with the same warm professionalism she shows every customer, never asking about his wealth or trying to ingratiate herself into his world. "Don't you want to know what I do?" Gabriel asks during his 4th visit, genuinely puzzled by her apparent indifference to his fortune. Nora refills his coffee cup with steady hands, her wedding ring finger notably bare, and shrugs with maddening nonchalance. "Does it matter? I can see you're lonely. Lonely is lonely, whether you're rich or poor." The simple truth of her words settles into Gabriel's chest like a key turning in a lock he forgot existed. Leo spills his chocolate milk across the table during one visit, and Nora kneels beside him to clean it up while he dissolves into tears of embarrassment. "Sorry, Daddy will be mad at me," Leo sobs, but Nora pulls him into a gentle hug that smells like vanilla and coffee and something essentially maternal. "Why would Daddy be mad? Accidents happen to everyone." Her eyes find Gabriel's over Leo's head, and he shakes his head quickly, throat tight with emotion. "I never get angry with Leo. I just worry about him getting hurt." Something shifts in Nora's expression, a softening around the edges that makes Gabriel's heart race with desperate hope. "You're a good father," she says quietly, and the words sink into his soul like rain on parched earth. "I try to be, but sometimes I wonder if I'm enough. Leo needs a mother." The admission costs Gabriel something vital, and Nora's hand briefly touches his across the table, a whisper of contact that burns like electricity. "Leo needs a father who loves him. You're already giving him that." Her insight into parenting surprises Gabriel, and he finds himself wondering about her past, about the experiences that taught her to read children with such intuitive accuracy. "Would you like to have dinner somewhere nicer?" Gabriel asks 2 weeks later, the invitation tumbling out before he can second-guess himself. But Nora shakes her head, her smile apologetic but firm. "I don't fit into your world." Gabriel leans forward, desperation making him bold. "What about my world fitting into yours?" Nora's laugh is soft and sad, like wind chimes in a melancholy breeze. "This world is complicated enough already." The cryptic response lodges itself in Gabriel's brain like a splinter, and he spends sleepless nights wondering what shadows she is hiding behind those careful words. Leo tugs on Nora's apron during their next visit, his 8-year-old charm working at full capacity. "Will you come to my house? I have a huge game room." But Nora ruffles his hair with genuine affection and promises vaguely, "Maybe another time." Leo's face falls with the particular devastation of childhood disappointment. "Promise? I only have Daddy, and I want you too." The naked honesty of his plea makes Nora's eyes shimmer with unshed tears, and Gabriel sees something crack in her carefully maintained composure. 3 weeks later, Nora finally agrees to dinner at Gabriel's mansion, and her reaction to the sprawling estate is everything Gabriel expected and dreaded. Her eyes widen as they drive through electronic gates that could protect a small country, past manicured gardens that cost more than most people's houses, up a circular driveway where a fountain shoots water 30 feet into the air like a liquid monument to excess. "Wow," she breathes, the word barely audible over the Bentley's whisper-quiet engine. Leo bounces in his booster seat, proud as a tour guide showing off the wonders of his kingdom. "This is the pool. This is the tennis court. This is Mommy's room." He leads them through marble halls that echo with footsteps and empty spaces, past artwork worth millions of dollars and furniture that belongs in museums rather than homes. When they reach Isabella's preserved bedroom, Leo stops in the doorway with the reverence of someone entering a shrine. Everything remains exactly as it was 2 years ago. Clothes hanging in closets, perfume bottles catching light on crystal surfaces, reading glasses folded beside a book that will never be finished. "Daddy doesn't let anyone in here," Leo whispers, his voice carrying the weight of secrets too heavy for small shoulders. "He says Mommy will come back." Gabriel's face drains of color, and Nora's fingers tighten around her purse strap as she recognizes the desperate preservation of grief, the refusal to let go that transforms love into a beautiful prison. Dinner is served by a Michelin-starred chef in a dining room designed to seat 20, but tonight it holds only 3 people lost in cavernous elegance that swallows conversation and magnifies loneliness. Leo chatters about school while Gabriel watches Nora navigate silver cutlery and crystal stemware with the careful politeness of someone visiting a foreign country. "How do you feel about all this?" Gabriel asks, gesturing at the ridiculous opulence surrounding them, and Nora takes her time before answering. "It's beautiful," she says slowly, "but it feels empty." Gabriel's defensive walls slam up like steel shutters. Empty? But Nora's observation cuts deeper than criticism, striking the heart of truth Gabriel has been avoiding. It's missing laughter, missing life. The housekeeper appears with Isabella's famous chocolate chip cookies, the recipe preserved like everything else in this monument to the past, and Gabriel explodes with the sudden violence of a man whose wound has been prodded too deeply. "Take them back to the kitchen. Now!" His voice echoes off marble walls like a gunshot, and Leo flinches while the housekeeper retreats in confused silence. "But sir, I said take them back!" Gabriel's shout fills the dining room with raw pain that has been festering for 2 years, and Nora stands slowly, her chair scraping against imported Italian tile. "I think I should go." Gabriel's hands shake as he struggles to regain control, his breath coming in short gasps that fog the air conditioning chilled to museum-perfect temperatures. "I'm sorry. I'm just not ready." A week passes in uncomfortable silence before Gabriel swallows his pride and returns to the diner. But Nora's warmth has crystallized into professional politeness that cuts him deeper than any blade. She serves his coffee without meeting his eyes, responds to his attempts at conversation with monosyllabic answers that build walls where bridges once stood. "Nora, about the other night," Gabriel begins, but she cuts him off with surgical precision. "You don't need to explain. I understand." Her voice carries the bitter knowledge of someone who has seen this pattern before. "You still love your wife. That's normal." Gabriel's chest constricts because she is right, but also completely wrong in ways he cannot articulate. "But You also what? Think you can love me too?" Nora's laugh is sharp enough to draw blood. "Gabriel, you can buy anything in this world, but you can't purchase love. And you definitely can't love 2 people at the same time." The truth of her words settles into Gabriel's bones like winter frost, and he realizes she is naming the impossible equation that has been tearing him apart. 2 days later, FBI badges flash like lightning in the diner's fluorescent glare as Detective Sarah Collins enters with the weight of federal authority radiating from her every step. "Nora Walsh, we need to talk." The words fall into the space between Gabriel and Nora like bombs, and Gabriel watches the color drain from Nora's face as if someone has opened her arteries. "About what?" Nora's voice comes out steady, but Gabriel catches the micro-tremor in her hands as she sets down the coffee pot with exaggerated care. "About last week's robbery, and about why you showed no fear." The police station interrogation room smells like industrial disinfectant and broken dreams, its fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows that turn everyone into suspects. Gabriel sits beside his high-powered attorney, while Detective Collins spreads photographs across the metal table like tarot cards predicting doom. "Miss Walsh, in my 15 years with the FBI, I've never seen a civilian remain that calm under armed threat. Care to explain?" Nora's fingers drum against the table surface in a rhythm that suggests muscle memory, training, something deeper than ordinary life experience. "I was in shock. Couldn't react properly." But Detective Collins smiles with the predatory satisfaction of a hunter who has caught her prey in a lie. "The 3 gunmen have been talking. Interesting story they're telling." Collins opens a thick file folder, and Gabriel's world tilts as documents spill across the table like evidence in a trial that will determine his fate. "They've been tracking you for 3 months, Mr. Hartford. Knew your routines, your favorite restaurants, your security details. This wasn't random robbery. This was a $50 million kidnapping attempt." Gabriel's blood turns to ice water as the implications crash over him like a tidal wave of realization. The gunmen weren't there for the diner's cash register or the handful of late-night customers. They were there for him, waiting in the shadows of his carefully controlled existence like predators studying their prey. But their plan fell apart because of Miss Walsh here. Detective Collins turns her laser focus on Nora, whose stillness has become absolute, like a deer frozen in headlights or a professional under interrogation. Her calm behavior spooked them, made them think she was law enforcement running a sting operation. The detective pauses for maximum impact, her next words dropping like stones into still water. Which brings us to an interesting question. Would you like to explain why you used to be Special Agent Nora Walsh, FBI crisis negotiator specializing in hostage situations? The revelation hits Gabriel like a physical blow, stealing his breath and leaving him staring at this woman he thought he knew. This mystery wrapped in diner uniforms and gentle smiles. You were FBI? Gabriel's voice cracks like a teenager asking his first crush to dance, and Nora finally meets his eyes with the resigned expression of someone whose deepest secrets have been dragged into fluorescent light. Special Agent Nora Walsh, badge number 2847, Crisis Negotiation Specialist. Her professional tone cuts through the room's tension like a scalpel through skin, and Gabriel realizes he is looking at a complete stranger wearing the face of someone he thought he loved. Detective Collins continues her relentless assault on Nora's crumbling defenses. And do you know who hired those 3 men to kidnap Mr. Hartford? She slides another photograph across the table, and Nora's professional composure finally cracks as she stares at the image of a man whose face carries the particular hardness that comes from violence and obsession. Marcus Walsh, your ex-husband. The name hangs in the air like smoke from a house fire, and Gabriel watches Nora's hands begin to shake with the first tremors of an earthquake that will reshape everything he thought he understood about their story. Marcus found you. Nora's whisper carries the weight of nightmares made real, and Detective Collins nods with grim satisfaction. Marcus Walsh, 42 years old, dishonorably discharged from the army for domestic violence, restraining order filed against him 3 years ago. Each detail builds a picture of menace that makes Gabriel's skin crawl with the awareness of danger circling his family like a pack of wolves. I was Special Agent Walsh, crisis negotiator, when I got the call about a hostage situation. Nora's voice drops to barely above a whisper, her professional mask cracking to reveal the raw humanity underneath. A military veteran had barricaded himself in an abandoned warehouse with his 6-year-old son, threatening to kill the child if his estranged wife didn't return to him. Gabriel's chest tightens as he begins to understand the shape of the horror Nora is describing. The veteran was my husband. The 6-year-old was my son. The confession falls between them like a bridge collapsing, and Gabriel realizes he is staring into an abyss of trauma that makes his own grief seem small and manageable by comparison. Tommy Walsh. He was 6 years old then. Nora's eyes focus on something beyond the interrogation room walls, seeing memories that burn like acid in her mind. Marcus had PTSD from Afghanistan deployments, became controlling, violent. When I filed for divorce and custody, he snapped. Her professional training kicks in as she recounts the facts like evidence in someone else's case. He took Tommy to that warehouse, said he'd rather kill our son than let me have him. Gabriel can barely breathe as the implications of her story crash over him, understanding dawning like sunrise over a battlefield littered with casualties. I was the negotiator they sent in. Nobody knew Tommy was my son. I'd hidden our relationship to avoid conflict of interest. Nora's hands clench into fists on the metal table, knuckles white with the pressure of containing volcanic emotion. I negotiated for 8 hours straight, convinced Marcus to release some other hostages, promised I'd come back to him if he let Tommy go. Her voice cracks like glass under pressure, and Gabriel sees the exact moment where her professional composure surrenders to the weight of unbearable truth. But Marcus discovered I was wearing a wire. He went into a rage, put the gun to Tommy's head and started counting down from 10. So you gave the order? Detective Collins' voice carries no judgment, only the flat recognition of impossible choices made in seconds that stretch into eternity. I ordered the sniper to take the shot. Nora's confession hangs in the fluorescent-lit room like an execution, and Gabriel feels the world shift beneath him as he stares at this woman who carries the weight of killing her own husband to save her child. One shot, clean through the head. Marcus died instantly. The clinical details cannot hide the human cost written in every line of Nora's face, the price of choosing between two kinds of love that should never have to compete. Tommy was rescued, but he'd watched his mother give the order to kill his father. 6 years old and traumatized beyond anything child psychology textbooks could address. Nora's tears fall like silver coins onto the metal table, each drop carrying the weight of impossible choices and their devastating consequences. He developed severe PTSD, couldn't stand to be in the same room with me. Every time Tommy looked at me, he saw the woman who ordered his daddy's death. Gabriel's throat constricts as he imagines a child's mind trying to process that level of betrayal and protection twisted into the same terrible moment. "Where is Tommy now?" Gabriel asks. Though he dreads the answer because Nora's pain is so complete, it suggests a loss beyond simple separation. Living with his maternal grandparents in Seattle. The court determined I was an unfit mother after Tommy testified that he was afraid of me. Nora's laugh carries no humor, only the bitter recognition of justice served by a system that cannot account for the complexity of human love and sacrifice. "I haven't seen my son in 3 years. He's 9 years old now, and I'm not allowed within 500 feet of him." Detective Collins drops the final bomb with the casual cruelty of someone who has delivered too much bad news to soften the blow. Except Marcus isn't dead. The words rewrite reality in an instant, and Nora's head snaps up like someone surfacing from deep water. What? The sniper's bullet caught him in the shoulder, not the head. Marcus played dead during the chaos, escaped in an ambulance he hijacked. Collins slides more photographs across the table showing hospital security footage of a man in bloody scrubs disappearing into Portland's urban maze. "He's been tracking you for 3 years, planning his revenge." His plan was elegant in its cruelty, Detective Collins continues, her voice carrying the particular disgust reserved for criminals who target families. "Kidnap the man you're falling in love with, force you to choose between saving Gabriel or letting him die the way you let Tommy almost die." Gabriel understands with crystalline clarity how Marcus's twisted logic works, the symmetry of making Nora live through the same impossible choice that destroyed her family. "But you spooked his hired guns with your professional calm. They thought it was a federal sting operation." Nora's phone buzzes against the metal table like a rattlesnake's warning, and the caller ID shows only blocked numbers and digital menace. "Hello, Nora." Marcus's voice crackles through the speaker with the casual intimacy of someone calling to discuss dinner plans rather than murder. "It's been too long." Gabriel watches Nora's face transform as she hears the voice of her living nightmare, 3 years of false security crumbling in the space between heartbeats. "Marcus, what do you want?" Her training reasserts itself, the professional negotiator emerging to handle a crisis that has been stalking her through ordinary days like cancer hiding in healthy tissue. "I want our family back together. Tommy's here with me now." The words hit Nora like physical blows, and Gabriel sees her professional mask shatter as maternal terror floods her system. "Tommy's in Seattle with his grandparents." But Marcus's laugh carries the satisfaction of someone who has been planning this moment for years. "Not anymore. The Walshes had a tragic accident yesterday. Car went off a bridge near Puget Sound. Very sad." Gabriel's blood freezes as he realizes they are listening to a man capable of murdering elderly grandparents to possess a child, someone whose obsession has evolved into something beyond ordinary human madness. "Tommy's safe with me, but he keeps crying for his mummy. Poor kid doesn't understand why you abandoned him." Marcus's voice carries mock sympathy that makes Gabriel's skin crawl with the awareness of evil wearing a human face. "Here's what's going to happen, Nora. You're going to come to our old warehouse. You remember the place, and you're going to prove your love for me." The demand hangs in the air like smoke from a burning building, and Gabriel knows they are listening to the devil negotiate for souls. "How?" Nora's voice barely carries across the table, and Marcus's answer arrives with the cold inevitability of winter. "By killing your boyfriend." The words rewrite the geometry of Gabriel's universe, transforming him from observer to target in the space of a syllable. "You bring Gabriel Hartford to the warehouse, you execute him in front of Tommy, and then we can be a family again." Gabriel stares at Nora across the table, seeing the impossible mathematics of her choice written in every line of her face. Save her son by murdering the man she might love, or refuse and watch both of them die at the hands of a madman who has already destroyed 2 generations of a family. Detective Collins reaches for her radio, but Nora's hand slams down on the device with desperate violence. "No, you don't understand. If you send tactical teams, he'll kill Tommy before they breach the door. I've seen his psychological profile." Her FBI training asserts itself even as her world collapses, the professional negotiator calculating odds and probabilities, while the mother screams silently in her skull. "I have to go alone." Gabriel stands up so fast his chair topples backward, the sound echoing through the interrogation room like a gunshot. "I'm going with you." His voice carries the absolute certainty of someone who has found something worth dying for in the wreckage of his careful life. "You can't. It's too dangerous." Nora's protest carries no conviction because she knows Gabriel has already made his decision with the same implacable determination that built a technology empire from nothing. "Tommy needs his mother, and I need you." Gabriel's hand finds hers across the table, fingers interlacing with the natural ease of puzzle pieces finding their proper places. "We'll bring your son home together." The promise hangs between them like a bridge across an abyss, and Gabriel realizes he has finally found something more important than his own grief, something worth risking everything to protect. The abandoned warehouse squats on the outskirts of Cedar Falls like a monument to industrial decay, its broken windows staring blindly at gathering storm clouds that mirror the darkness pooling in Gabriel's chest. He and Nora approach through shadows that seem to writhe with malevolent purpose, their footsteps echoing off concrete and rusted steel in rhythms that sound like funeral drums. Inside the cavernous space, Marcus Walsh emerges from the gloom like a nightmare given flesh, his face bearing the particular hardness of someone whose humanity has been carved away by obsession and rage. 9-year-old Tommy sits bound to a chair in the warehouse's center, duct tape across his mouth and terror in his eyes that should never belong to childhood. "Mommy!" Tommy's muffled cry cuts through the warehouse's oppressive silence, and Nora takes a step forward before Marcus raises his pistol with the casual expertise of someone who has killed before. "That's far enough, dear wife." His voice carries mock affection twisted into something obscene, and Gabriel feels his protective instincts surge like electricity through his nervous system. "I'm here. Let Tommy go." Nora's negotiator training reasserts itself, her voice finding the calm authority that has talked dozens of desperate people away from violence. But Marcus shakes his head with the patience of someone who has planned this moment for 3 years. "Not until you prove your commitment to our marriage." Marcus gestures toward Gabriel with his weapon, and the warehouse air thickens with the metallic scent of fear and rusted machinery. "Kill him, and we can be a family again. Tommy needs both his parents." The demand hangs in the warehouse's stale air like poison gas, and Gabriel sees the impossible equation written in Nora's face as she stares at the gun Marcus extends toward her like a twisted wedding gift. "I won't do it." Her refusal echoes off concrete walls, but Marcus's smile carries the cold satisfaction of someone who has anticipated every move in this deadly chess game. "Then watch your new boyfriend die slowly, while your son learns what happens to people who abandon their families." Marcus swings his pistol toward Gabriel, But Tommy suddenly wrenches free from his restraints with the desperate strength of childhood terror. "Leave him alone!" The 9-year-old's voice cracks with emotion as he launches himself at his father, small fists pounding against Marcus's legs with ineffective fury. "You're the bad one! You hurt Mommy! You made her save me!" The words pour out of Tommy like water through a burst dam. 3 years of suppressed truth finally finding voice in the warehouse's oppressive darkness. Marcus backhands Tommy with casual violence, sending the boy sprawling across concrete that opens cuts on his palms and knees. "Shut up, you little bastard!" But Tommy struggles to his feet, blood trickling from his lip as he positions himself between his mother and the madman who shares his DNA. "Mommy didn't kill you! Mommy saved me!" His declaration rings through the warehouse like a bell-tolling truth, and Gabriel sees Nora's face transform as she realizes her son has never blamed her for that impossible choice 3 years ago. Marcus's rage explodes like napalm as he raises his weapon toward the child who dares to contradict his version of reality. Gabriel moves without conscious thought, his body launching across the warehouse floor in a tackle that would make his college football coach proud. He and Marcus crash into rusted machinery with bone-jarring impact, the gun spinning away across concrete as they grapple for dominance amid the industrial detritus of America's empty-and dreams. Marcus fights with the desperate ferocity of someone whose entire identity depends on controlling the narrative of his family's destruction, while Gabriel battles with the protective fury of a father who has already lost too much to let death claim anyone else he loves. The gunshot echoes through the warehouse like thunder, and for a moment the world stops breathing as Gabriel feels warmth spreading across his shoulder where Marcus's desperate shot found its mark. But the wound is superficial, a graze that draws blood without breaking anything essential, and Gabriel's grip on Marcus's throat never loosens. "It's over," he growls through clenched teeth, and Marcus's eyes widen as he realizes his perfect plan has crumbled into chaos and failure. From somewhere beyond the warehouse walls comes the sound of sirens and tactical boots on concrete as FBI agents pour through breached doors like avenging angels bringing federal justice to Oregon's industrial wasteland. Detective Collins appears through gun smoke and dust, her weapon trained on Marcus with the steady aim of someone who has ended too many domestic violence cases in blood and courtroom testimony. "Marcus Walsh, you're under arrest." The words carry the weight of closure, and Gabriel releases his grip as handcuffs click around wrists that will never again threaten the family Marcus destroyed through his inability to love without possessing. Tommy runs to his mother with the desperate speed of someone who has been separated too long from the only safety he has ever known, and Nora catches him in arms that shake with 3 years of accumulated fear and hope finally finding release. 1 week later, Cedar Falls General Hospital's pediatric wing buzzes with the quiet efficiency of healing, its pastel walls and cartoon murals offering gentle comfort to children learning to trust the world again. Gabriel sits propped against pillows that smell like industrial detergent and honest medicine, his shoulder bandaged but his heart lighter than it has been since Isabella's funeral. Tommy perches on the bed's edge, chattering about school and friends and all the ordinary miracles of childhood that trauma temporarily stole but could not permanently destroy. Nora holds Gabriel's uninjured hand while Leo bounces in the room's single chair, his 8-year-old enthusiasm barely contained by hospital visiting rules. "Tommy, would you like Gabriel to be your stepfather?" Nora asks, her voice carrying the tentative hope of someone who has learned not to expect happy endings but dares to reach for one anyway. Tommy considers the question with 9-year-old seriousness, his eyes moving between Gabriel and Leo as he calculates the mathematics of family formation. "Does that mean Leo would be my brother?" The question carries such earnest curiosity that Gabriel's throat tightens with emotion he thought he had exhausted years ago. Yes, Gabriel manages through vocal cords that feel wrapped in silk and sorrow. If you want him to be. Tommy nods with the decisive authority of someone who has faced adult choices and emerged with his humanity intact. I'd like that. Leo can teach me about video games, and I can show him how to throw a curveball. The simple negotiation of brotherhood makes Leo whoop with joy that brings nurses running to check on their newest patient family. Can we have pancakes for breakfast every day? Leo asks with the practical concerns of someone whose life has suddenly expanded to include possibilities he never imagined. Nora laughs, the sound carrying 3 years of suppressed joy finally finding expression in Cedar Falls General's antiseptic corridors. Mom, Tommy says quietly, testing the word like someone learning a new language after years of silence. I was never scared of you. I was scared that you'd get hurt trying to protect me again. His confession hangs in the hospital room's recycled air like absolution, and Nora dissolves into tears that taste like salt water and redemption. I'm sorry for everything you had to go through because of my choices. But Tommy shakes his head with the wisdom that sometimes visits children who have seen too much of adult complexity. You saved me, Mom. That's what moms do. The simple declaration rewrites 3 years of guilt and separation, transforming Nora's worst nightmare into proof of love's willingness to pay any price for protection. Gabriel reaches into his bedside table and withdraws the silver-framed photograph of Isabella, her radiant smile unchanged by time or the accumulation of new love in the room around her memory. Isabella, I want you to meet Tommy and Nora. His voice carries to the photograph with the same gentle respect he once used when introducing her to business partners and society friends. They're going to be part of our family now. Tommy peers at the photograph with the curious intensity of someone studying an important historical document, then looks up at Gabriel with eyes that hold no jealousy, only acceptance. She's very pretty. Will you tell me about her? Every day, Gabriel promises, and means it with the full weight of someone who has learned that love multiplies rather than divides when shared across the expanding boundaries of chosen family. Nora places her hand over Gabriel's on Isabella's photograph, her wedding ring finger now adorned with the simple gold band they exchanged in the hospital chapel the day before. Thank you for teaching Gabriel how to love, she whispers to the image, and Gabriel realizes that some blessings arrive disguised as loss. Some families form in the spaces between heartbreak and healing. 2 years drift past like pages in a book written by authors who have learned to trust happy endings, and Cedar Falls has grown accustomed to the sight of the Hartford family walking through downtown streets that once seemed too small to contain Gabriel's larger-than-life presence. He sold the mansion in exclusive hills, choosing instead a rambling Victorian house 6 blocks from Tommy and Leo's elementary school, where 10-year-old Leo and 11-year-old Tommy race through rooms that echo with laughter instead of loneliness. The house smells like chocolate chip cookies and fresh coffee, ordinary miracles that Isabella's recipe book helped create in a kitchen designed for family rather than display. Sunday morning breakfast has become sacred ritual in the Hartford household, with Nora standing at the stove, flipping pancakes, while Gabriel reads stock reports that seem less important than they used to when wealth was his only companion. On the kitchen table, 2 photographs share space between syrup bottles and orange juice glasses. Isabella's wedding portrait and a newer image of all 4 family members taken at Tommy's Little League Championship game. Thank you for giving me a good dad, Tommy says to Isabella's photograph, a morning routine that began spontaneously but has evolved into something approaching prayer. Leo, now 10 years old and wise beyond his chronological age, adds his own contribution to their daily gratitude. Thanks for sharing Dad with us, Mom, Isabella, and for making sure he knew how to make really good pancakes. The boys' easy acceptance of divided loyalty amazes Gabriel daily, their ability to honor the past while embracing the present, teaching him lessons about resilience that no Harvard Business School case study ever contained. Nora turns from the stove, spatula in hand and flower in her auburn hair, looking like domestic contentment personified. Your mom would be proud of how you boys take care of each other. The transformation in Tommy never ceases to amaze Gabriel, watching the withdrawn 9-year-old evolve into an 11-year-old who captains his soccer team and volunteers to read to kindergarten students every Friday afternoon. The trauma hasn't disappeared entirely. Nightmares still occasionally shatter his sleep, and loud noises sometimes send him seeking comfort in adult arms. But healing has taken root in the rich soil of consistent love and patient understanding. "Dad Gabriel," Tommy says during one breakfast conversation that will lodge itself permanently in Gabriel's memory, "can I ask you something about being scared?" Gabriel sets down his coffee cup, recognizing the careful tone that precedes important childhood revelations. "Of course, son." Tommy's fork pushes pancake pieces around his plate in patterns that suggest deep thought, and Gabriel waits with the patience of someone who has learned that rushing children's emotional processes yields nothing but missed opportunities for connection. "Were you scared when you decided to come save me from my real dad?" The question carries weight beyond its simple construction, and Gabriel realizes Tommy is asking about courage, about the moment when love becomes strong enough to face down death itself. "Terrified," Gabriel admits, with the honesty that has become his family's foundation. "I thought I might die in that warehouse, and I was afraid of leaving you and Leo and your mom behind." Tommy nods with the satisfaction of someone whose adult hero has confirmed his humanity rather than claiming superhuman fearlessness. "But you came anyway." The statement carries no question, only the wonder of someone learning how bravery actually works in real life rather than movies. Because family means you show up, even when you're scared, especially when you're scared. 5 years telescope past with the comfortable speed of seasons changing in a place where happiness has learned to root itself in ordinary soil, and Cedar Falls High School's graduation ceremony unfolds under June sunshine that seems designed specifically for marking transitions from childhood to whatever comes next. 15-year-old Leo and 16-year-old Tommy sit with their graduating class, 2 young men who have learned to navigate the world with the confidence that comes from knowing exactly who they are and where they belong. Gabriel and Nora occupy prime seats in the gymnasium's front row, their hands intertwined with the natural ease of people who have weathered storms together and emerged stronger for the experience. "Can you believe they're graduating already?" Nora whispers, her voice carrying the particular amazement of parents watching time accelerate beyond reasonable speeds. Gabriel shakes his head, remembering the terrified 8-year-old who once clung to his leg during thunderstorms and the traumatized 9-year-old who flinched at unexpected noises. Now those same children wear caps and gowns and plan futures that stretch beyond Cedar Falls into possibilities their younger selves could never have imagined. Leo's going to study computer science at Stanford. Tommy wants to major in psychology and social work. The symmetry of their choices strikes Gabriel as evidence of healing completing its mysterious work. After the ceremony, the family gathers at Cedar Falls Diner, now under new management but still serving the same honest food that brought them together, to celebrate transitions and plan futures over coffee and pie that tastes like memory and hope stirred together in equal proportions. "Dad, Mom," Leo begins with the formal tone he uses for important announcements, "Tommy and I have been talking about something." Gabriel and Nora exchange glances across the diner's familiar booth, recognizing the particular seriousness that precedes life-changing declarations. "We've decided what we want to do after college." Tommy picks up the conversation with the smooth teamwork that characterizes their brotherhood. "We're going to open a counseling center for kids whose families have been through trauma. Kids like us." The announcement settles into the diner's comfortable atmosphere like sunlight through windows, and Gabriel feels pride expanding in his chest until breathing becomes difficult. "We want to help other families learn what we learned, that broken doesn't mean beyond repair." Leo's addition carries the wisdom of someone who has watched love rebuild what violence destroyed. And Gabriel realizes his sons have discovered their life's purpose in the spaces between their own healing. We'll call it the Isabella Walsh Hartford Center, Tommy adds, and Gabriel's vision blurs as the name settles into his consciousness like a benediction. Isabella for the mom who taught our dad how to love, Walsh for the mom who saved me, and Hartford for the dad who chose to love us anyway. The naming ceremony happens without fanfare in a small-town diner, but Gabriel knows he is witnessing something sacred, the transformation of loss into legacy through the alchemy of chosen family and persistent love. As sunset paints Cedar Falls in shades of gold and amber, the Hartford family walks home through streets that have witnessed their transformation from strangers thrown together by tragedy into something resembling the American dream's most honest iteration. Gabriel carries his arm around Nora's shoulders while their sons debate the merits of different graduate programs, their voices carrying the easy confidence of young men who know exactly where they come from and approximately where they're headed. The evening air smells like barbecue grills and fresh-cut grass, ordinary miracles that Gabriel has learned to treasure since discovering that wealth without family is just expensive loneliness. Do you ever regret it? Nora asks as they climb the front steps of their Victorian house, where porch lights glow warm against gathering darkness, and the sound of neighborhood children playing extends summer's promise a few hours past its natural expiration. Regret what? Gabriel asks, though he suspects he knows what she means. Falling in love with a woman who killed her husband, building a family from other people's broken pieces. Her question carries the weight of someone who still occasionally wakes up amazed that happiness found her again after she thought she had used up her lifetime allotment. Gabriel stops on the porch, turning to face this woman who taught him that love isn't a finite resource, but rather something that grows stronger when shared across the expanding boundaries of chosen family. You saved your son, then you saved all of us. His words carry the absolute certainty of someone who has measured his life before and after meeting her, finding the comparison so dramatically favorable that gratitude has become his default emotional state. You're the bravest person I've ever known. The kiss they share tastes like coffee and possibilities, like promises kept and new ones being born in the space between heartbeats. From their bedroom window, Isabella's photograph catches the last rays of sunlight, her smile seeming to approve of the family that has grown up around her memory like flowers in a well-tended garden. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and ordinary miracles, college applications and family dinners, the comfortable rhythms of people who have learned that love multiplies rather than divides when shared across the boundaries of blood and choice. Tonight, in a house filled with laughter and the sound of boys planning their futures, Gabriel Hartford finally understands that some endings are actually beginnings disguised as conclusions. Some losses become gifts that take years to unwrap, and some families form not through birth, but through the daily choice to show up for each other, especially when showing up requires everything you have to give.